Fasting. I'm gonna read the introduction really quick, and then we're gonna get into it. Okay. So, in life, as we grow both physically and spiritually, we mature in a way where we start to realize a lot of our problems and struggles are usually self-inflicted. It could be a result from different mistakes we've made, a sin we justify rather than rectify. And it, of course, could be God allowing a certain trial to develop patience, faithfulness, love, joy, kindness, self-control, goodness, and meekness, which are all the fruits of the Spirit. Also, throughout life, we have different situations that may appear over which we have no control, like sicknesses or diseases, financial hardships, relationship issues, parenting complications, etc., etc. And it could be a plethora of different things. So, however, there is this one biblical practice that we can all do to have a mighty move of God in these different situations and struggles that we may face. And that practice is called fasting. So let's talk about it. Okay. First question is the most obvious question. Okay. What is fasting?
Don't eat.
No, it is. Essentially, yeah, that's what fasting is not eating, but why?
Because you're like, we said it last week. We said it
What?
last week, right?
Yeah, we did a little.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
we
did.
said that's when we want to hunger for him and ignore our flesh.
Yeah,
Right.
starve our flesh,
Right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, so fasting is I'm gonna read the actual definition too. Hold on. I just had to pull it up. Okay, in the Bible, fasting is the practice of abstaining from food for spiritual reasons. It is a way to connect with God, pray, and repent. So why fast? It's to humble yourself before God, to strengthen your faith in God, to confront sin, to seek spiritual growth, to pray with your whole body, not just your mouth, and to remember that only God can satisfy your deepest longings and not food. Okay. So that's what fasting is. Now, this is going to be kind of a quick lesson because it's literally three scriptures. So once we get through the three different scriptures, we're going to get into two different examples of people fasting in the Bible. Okay. So verse 16, Isaiah, can you read verse 16 for me, please?
Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad continuance, for they disfigured their faces.
Countenance.
For they disfigured their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward.
There you go. So yeah, so countenance, as you see the definition, what a countenance is a person's face or facial expression. That's all a countenance is, right? So what is, huh? Yeah, that's what it is. It's a super bougie word for it. When I first learned it, nah, it's just your face. That's hilarious. But yeah, so the point of this verse right here is this is what Jesus is telling us essentially with this verse. He's saying advertised fasting is another example of an external and degenerate piety or religiousness. All forms of self-denial are to be secret without parade. It's like, why am I going to fast and tell you, hey, look, I'm fasting? Just like I told that story last week of how when I was out driving to Georgia for that convention, right? I'm over here telling everybody that I'm fasting, and I wasn't even really fasting. You get what I'm saying?
I would ask him for food from something.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But what he's saying is when you're fasting so that you can grow with God. You're not fasting so that people can see you growing spiritually. You're fasting because you need something from God. You need to hear his voice. You need some guidance. You need his provision, whatever it is that you may need. And that's the point of you fasting. So what am I telling the next man about it for? It's not his business. He's not going to help me with my spirituality. He's not going to help me with my faith. He's not going to help me with my guidance and provision. Only God can, because he's my source. So there's no point in you telling everybody else. If you tell somebody else that you're doing it, or you're like, let's say you out and about. First of all, if you know you fasting, don't go with your friends to eat. Don't do it, because you're gonna put yourself in a position where you're gonna probably even have to say, nah, it's because I'm fasting. That's why I'm not eating. Just stay away from it. Now, let's say you're having dinner at the house or something like that. Don't say, oh man, I can't eat right now. I'm fasting. I'm not hungry. That's it. And just stay away. That's all you got to do. Because I didn't tell you that day when I fasted. I didn't tell you that I was fasting. I just didn't eat. You didn't even know what I was doing. Speaking of which, side note, don't walk in my room again. He did it again.
What are you talking about?
Gabby,
When?
I'm praying at my desk.
Oh yeah.
And my light is off. My music is on. He walks in the room, turns the light on, and my head is on praying. I'm like, I pray to God he just walks out. Because he sees I'm praying. The light stayed on. And then I hear him close the door. Okay, he left. Cool. Then I hear the closet rustling. Why? That was the most awkward.
The door because you was praying.
You're not supposed to be in there.
That's respect. Okay, how about this?
Jesus
Get
Christ.
from good what I said. When the door is closed, I'm praying. Don't come in.
You should know that.
No.
I never have the door closed outside of that.
I just got out of the shower and I needed my towel.
Oh,
and
okay.
It was in the room.
That's hilarious, bro.
So,
I was sitting there like, come on, man, what are you doing? Right?
My bad, though,
But yeah, so fasting, listen, fasting is a secret thing, just as prayer was last week. Fasting is a secret thing that you do with both you and God. So just like with the prayer lesson, this is not him saying corporate fasting is wrong, as we will see in the story examples that we're going to study. Okay. Now, verses 17 through 18. Gabby, can you read those two verses? My water. Oh.
But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly.
Amen. So he tells us what not to do when we fast, right? And then right after that, he says how to or what to do when you do fast. So what does Jesus mean when he says to anoint your head and wash your face?
Oil.
What do you mean? Like, what does he mean? Like if somebody was asking you, how do I fast? And you pointed them to the scripture and they say, what does that mean, anoint my head? Basically saying, put the oil on your head.
You feel me, whatever. Say a little, I don't know what y'all be saying, but when you put oil on your head, y'all be like, I really don't know actually.
I'd be skeptical if people be doing that.
What, the oil?
Yeah.
You know what?
What is like I know you're getting like a ritual, huh? Yeah, you're getting anointed and all
yeah,
that,
it's a way of anointing and like blessing. That's all it is. It's kind of like when who was it in Samuel? He was anointing a prophet that Jesus wanted, and he was choosing who. And then when he found who, and when God told him exactly who, he anointed his head with oil. So I believe that's where it stems from. Is it a necessity? That I couldn't say, because I would have to do a deep study on it, because it's a lot of things that we do today that is not really a necessity, but we do it out of culture and tradition. Yeah. But it's not like if I don't do it, it's a sin. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like that's what that is. But when he says to anoint your head and wash your face, he's not essentially saying put oil on your head and wash your face. Okay. What he is saying is have yourself done together. Don't go out when you fasting looking like you're fasting, because your face will show that you're hungry. You don't want to go out looking all weary and stuff like that to bring attention to yourself, because that's not what you're doing it for. So walk out like ain't nothing going on right now. Just go about your day. Don't allow people to see that you're hungry. Do not do that, because that's you seeking attention. That's you seeking an opportunity to eat. That's you seeking an opportunity for somebody to see you to be fasting. So he says, anoint your head, anoint your body, wash your face, right? And when you go into people, they're going to see that you out and about, you're doing your thing. And God's going to see your heart. He sees that you fasting. He sees that you're abstaining from food so that you can get whatever you desire from him. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying don't put oil on your head. Hey, do it. Put oil on your head, wash your face. That's what you want to do. That's totally fine. But if you don't do that, that doesn't make your fasting not pure. Okay? So, but yes, that's what he means. So it basically says, have yourself done up and put together and not looking raggedy and worn out because you haven't eaten. He is telling us to be sure to avoid hypocritical religious practices. Okay? So when we fast, God sees what you're doing from what you show and also your intent behind it. When we do fast, do not sound the trumpet, or we make, when we fast and don't sound the trumpet, or we make sure that people don't see that we are fasting, God sees that. And whatever you are fasting for, he will reward that to you openly for all to see. That way you may be a testimony of God's great power. Okay. So obviously that was pretty fast. So now we got the next 45 minutes. We're going to talk about these two stories. Okay. So throughout the Bible, there are a plethora of stories of people fasting and praying for God to move in a certain area of their life. It could be for a miracle to take place. It could be for deliverance. It could be for someone else. It could be because you feel far from him and want to hear his voice, etc., etc. It could be many different things. But whatever the reason, we must make it a necessity. Just as a house needs a generator from when the lights go out, God is our generator. Okay, because think about it. When the lights go out in the house, you have to go to that generator, make sure the generator is good. And the generator will give light to the entire house, right? So in that same sense, we're the light of the world, are we not? So since we're the light of the world, we go out and about all the time, spreading good news, doing good deeds, all of these things, right? And there's times where we get tired. There's times we get worn out, and sometimes might even go out of power because, like, man, I done did too much. I need to relax. And when we get to that point, we need to go to God as our generator to rejuvenate us. You know what I'm saying? So in the same sense of a light needing a generator, we need God. And that's what the point of fasting is. Okay. So let's together review a few stories of people fasting and praying in the Bible. Okay. So let's go to Ezra. Ezra chapter 8. Ezra chapter 8. Let me go there with you.
You know, when we gonna jump on the choir?
I'm not singing.
Don't you mention, you know?
The singer right here. People have been telling on you. Ezra chapter 8. Are you looking for it?
Whoa.
No, keep going.
I got it.
Say the books of the Old Testament.
Huh?
Say the books. You'll know where it's at. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Come on. Joshua, Judges, Ruth. First, Second Chronicles. Come on.
I'm goofy, bro.
Bro, turn your page.
Come on.
There you go. Don't be afraid to turn it. Come on. You're far from it in a sense. Look, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, Job. There you go.
You got her looking at me like, oh my God.
Come on.
Y'all go ahead and start, man.
No. We finna take as much time as possible. Because at the rate we going, we gonna be done by 10:05. So
I'm in there. Come on.
You there? Okay, so before we start reading chapter 8, I'll give you a little background on the first 7 chapters of this book. So basically, this is the time after the exile into Babylon, as they got basically the Israelites disobeyed God, fell into idolatry and disobedience. And so God punished them by kicking them out of the land they were in and exiling them to Babylon. Okay. And the promise was after 70 years, you'll come out of this place, right? 70 years or 7. I forgot, right? Don't quote me. But basically, they were exiled into Babylon. And then it gets to the point at the end of the promise where you have 2 leaders, Zerubbabel and Ezra. I know it's a crazy name. It's a lot of crazy names in this book. I'm trying to tell you. I'm like, what? How do y'all even say this? But anywho, right? So Zerubbabel was the first one. He was the one in the first 6 chapters or first 5 chapters. And he was leading all the people and the other tribes of Israel, all the chief's sons. He was leading them all the way to Jerusalem so they can build a house, a temple for God, and to give offerings like oxes, goats, all of these things to worship God, right? And so he did that. And then Ezra was doing the same thing. And now he's leading another group of people. And it's a plethora of people. I'm telling you. Zerubbabel led out, I think, like 40,000 people. 40,000. Bro, as he was taking them out. So they're having a lot of people walk with them as they're going through these passages, right? And so then you have Ezra here, which we're about to read. He's trying to lead these people, but he wants to make sure that they're going to be safe. Okay, so I'm gonna have you start reading. I'm gonna have you start at verse 15, chapter 8, verse 15. Okay, because the first 14 verses is just the names of the people.
Verse 15?
Yes, sir.
Got you, Drew.
Don't.
And I gathered them together to the river that runneth to Ahava, and there abode we in tents 3 days, and I viewed the people and the priest, and found there none of the sons of Levi. Then I sent I for for
Eliezer,
Ariel, Eleazar for Ariel, for Shemaiah, and for
El Nathan,
El Nathan, and for Jareb, and for El Nathan, and for Nathan, and for Zechariah, and for Muslim chief men, also for Jareb, and for El Nathan, men of understanding.
mm-hmm.
And I sent them with commandment unto Idu, the chief at the place Casaphia, and I told them what they should say unto
Edo,
Edo, and to his brethren, the Nethinims,
Nethinims.
Nethinims, at the place of Casaphia, that they should bring unto us ministers for the house of our God. And by the good hand of our God upon us, they brought us men of understanding of the sons of Mahali, the son of Levi, the son of Israel, the son of Sherebiah, with his sons and his brethren, 18, and Hashabiah, and with him Jeshahiah of the sons of Merari, Merari, his brethren, and their sons 20. Also of the Nethinims, whom David and the princess had appointed for the service of the Levites,
Mm-hmm.
220 Nethinims. All of them were expressed by name. I'm not gonna lie. Reading this is making me feel retarded.
But don't think like that, man. Come on, you
I'm
good.
just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
You're reading KJV. That's the only reason you feel retarded. Trust me.
Bro,
Trust me. You good. Just go.
It's not just
Bro, when I be reading in my head, I be like, bro, everybody listening to me don't sound stupid. And I'm in my head, bro. Just go. You good.
Then I proclaimed a fast
There it is.
at the river of Ahava,
Mm-hmm.
that we might afflict ourselves before our God to seek him a right way for us and for our little ones and for our substance.
Stop right there.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's
So
good.
now remember what I said. They were in Babylon for exile. They were exiled to Babylon. Right. I'm gonna read the explanation right here. It says Ezra continues the Old Testament narrative of the Second Chronicles by showing how God fulfills His promise to return His people to the land of promise after 70 years of exile. Israel's second exodus, this one from Babylon, is less impressive than the return from Egypt because only a remnant chooses to leave Babylon. Okay. So when he took the Israelites out of Egypt, they all left. But now when he's taking them out of Babylon, only a portion of them left. A remnant of them left. Okay. Now, Ezra relates the story of two returns from Babylon. The first led by Zerubbabel to rebuild the temple, and the second under the leadership of Ezra to rebuild the spiritual condition of the people. We'll read that again. Ezra relates the story of two different returns to Babylon. The first one was led by Zerubbabel, okay? And he led them so that they can rebuild the temple, okay? Now, Ezra, he was the second one. Under the leadership of Ezra, he left to rebuild the spiritual condition of the people. Sandwiched between these two accounts is a gap of nearly 6 decades, during which Esther lives and rules as queen in Persia, okay? So now we see they're leaving Babylon to get to the holy place of Jerusalem, to get to the promised land of Jerusalem that God promised them. Okay. Zerubbabel led the first group so they can go build the temple. Ezra leads the second group because we need to fix our spiritual condition because we've been in the place we're not supposed to be. Okay. So here they are in a strange place that they're not supposed to be, but they were there because of a punishment by God because of their disobedience and idolatry, correct? So now Ezra is about to lead them to Jerusalem to fix their spiritual condition. How can we fix our spiritual condition?
Fasting.
By fasting, exactly. So then he says in verse 21, then I proclaimed a fast there, okay, at the river of Ahava. Now, the reason he proclaimed the fast is in the next verse, right after that. Okay. It says, "For I was ashamed to require of the king a band of soldiers and horsemen to help us against the enemy in the way, because we had spoken unto the king, saying, the hand of our God is upon all them for good that seek him. But his power and his wrath is against all them that forsake him." So how can I put it? He expressed his confidence in God, saying God is going to provide everything that we need. He is our keeper. He is our provider. He is our protector, Isaiah, correct? He is the one who's our guidance. I'm telling you, this man, this king on earth, I'm telling you how big my God is. But now I'm stuck. I don't know if we can make it to Jerusalem safely. And I need our people to be safe. So instead of me asking you, the king, for help, because I just told you we get our help from the Lord, y'all listen, let's sit down right now and let's fast. Let's fast so that we can get God to act in our life right now. Okay? So let's correlate this to today. Let's say you contract a disease, right? Let's say you contract cancer or something, right? And then when you get it, your doctors are like, "Oh my gosh, you have cancer. You have 6 months to live," right? And then you tell them, "I know that you're saying I have cancer, but my God is bigger than this cancer. My God will heal my body." And then 3 months later, you're feeling worse than you felt 3 months ago. Instead of going to that doctor and saying, "Hey, I need something because I'm feeling terrible," you told the doctor what? God gonna take care of me. So what I'm gonna do then, I'm gonna just sit here and fast, and I'm gonna say, "God, I need you to move in my life because I've already confessed my confidence in you to do what you would do. But now for me to manifest my faith and put it into action, I'm going to refrain from eating. I'm going to afflict myself. I'm going to humble myself so that you can move in my life. Because right now I can't do nothing about this situation. Ezra could not do nothing in this situation. So therefore he proclaimed a fast so that they can get the hand of God to move on their life. Okay, so it says, "So we fasted and besought our God for this, and he was entreated of us." Okay, in other words, we begged him. He heard our cries. Okay, so fasting. This is a story now. Esther, in the story of Esther, it's a different. It's a different fast. Okay, this is more like they about to get killed, which your mama taught about this in that Bible study, but this one is a bit deeper than that. Okay, but this Ezra fast, the point of this fast was I need God to protect me on my path, on my way to this place. So let's say you about to move or something like that, right? It's in that same essence. It's like, okay, God, I don't got no money. I got $200 to my name, and I'm about to move to this place that you told me to move to. So God, I need you. I need you to protect me as I am there. Keep my heart guarded, keep my mind, and give me that peace that surpasses all understanding to guard my heart and mind as I go on this journey. Right. So basically, the story of Ezra is teaching us this: that when you are put in a situation where you can't do nothing about it, and you can lean on somebody else to do it, don't choose another human being. Choose God. Because especially if you've already told this person, God got me. You've already acted like you got all the faith in the world. So now act on that faith. Don't eat. I know you hungry. Y'all been on this journey for a minute. I know you hungry. Don't even eat. Refrain from eating. Humble yourself and pray and say, God, I need you. And when you do that, he'll listen. But you have to be willing to, because he see your heart. So if out of fear you instead go to a human being for it, that's you saying, God, I know what I said, but I don't believe that you'll do it truly.
That's crazy.
And that's crazy to even think about saying that. Okay? So
you deserve to get punched in the mouth.
Lord have mercy. This brother here. Okay. So now in the very next book, or 2 books after this, and also I forgot, Nehemiah is telling the same story in essence as well, continuing it on. Okay. Now let's get to Esther. No, other way. I gotta get to the Old Testament. Now let's get to Esther chapter 4. Esther chapter 4. We're gonna be done quick.
The story of Vashti. I'm done, bro.
Esther chapter
Fasting among the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, is it before Ezra?
It's
No, it's two after.
My brain's like.
You good?
It's a short book.
Got it? All right. Now, do you remember this story? Yes and no. What do you remember?
Don't ask me that.
What do you remember?
She became queen.
Yep.
She brought her people out, and she fasted. Prayed to God, and that's all I remember.
Do you remember why she fasted?
To bring her people out.
Okay, gotcha. Have you heard the story before, Zay?
Man, listen. I'm gonna just read first.
I love you, bro. You know that. I truly do, bro.
I'm late on
It's a
all this,
character.
bro. Well, there's no such thing.
No, that's not late. It's not late.
Yeah.
So I got you. So basically, the story of Esther, as she said, Esther did. She was an Israelite. She was a Jew who became queen in Persia. Okay. And obviously, she brought her people. So it's a lot of Jews living in this place, right? But she's the queen. Okay. Now her husband is the king, Ahasuerus. I think that's how you say his name. And there's this point in time that Ahasuerus promoted this man named Haman. He promoted him. Okay. He promoted him. He is the son of Hammedatha. I think that's how you say the name. The Agagite. And he advanced him to set his seat above all the princes that was with him. So basically, he was his right-hand man in a sense. Okay. He was, but you never watched Game of Thrones or Vikings, none of that stuff.
I don't want to hear that.
How can I put it?
I seen Prince of Persia.
I don't even remember that movie.
What is that? What? Oh, what? Isn't that the time? That's Ryan Gosling.
Yep, Jack Gyllenhaal.
Yeah. Whatever.
But yeah, so basically you have a King Uzziah and then you have the king's hand, and the king's hand is the one that controls everything. So Haman, so there's a rule there when the king comes. Basically, you guys have to when y'all come into the council, you have to bow your heads. You have to bow your heads and kneel before the king and all that stuff. Basically, showing your respect and honor the king. But Mordecai, who is, I believe, the cousin of Esther, Mordecai Isaiah, is a believer of God. And he believes that I don't bow to no man other than God.
It's facts.
Right. I serve no king other than the King of Kings. I serve no God other than the God above all.
He don't want you being on your knees.
So I am not going to bow in reverence to a man who has the same flesh and blood as I do. Right. Now, Haman becomes enraged by this. He's like, whoa, how dare you have the audacity to disrespect my king in front of all these people? So then he conspires. He conspires with the king and basically gets to say so to go and put out a declaration to all the lands to kill all the Israelites.
Which is Jews.
Yes. So he put out a proclamation to kill everybody. And then chapter 4, we have Mordecai's answer to this. Okay. So I'm going to read chapter 4. Okay. Unless you want to read. I got you. So chapter 4, verse 1. You don't have a choice. Right. When Mordecai perceived all that was done, Mordecai rent his clothes. That means he took off his clothes and put on sackcloth with ashes and went out into the midst of the city and cried out with a loud and bitter cry and came even before the king's gate. For none might enter into the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. Okay. You know what that means?
Clothed with sackcloth?
No, so basically what that means is you can't come into the gate of the castle. You cannot come into the gate of the king with sackcloth and ashes because you look like a bum. You look poor. You can't come into there like that. You can't even sit outside the gate like that, right? But he does it because, bro, we about to get killed. God, I need you to move. So I'm going to humble myself in front of you, okay? And in every province, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, there was great mourning among the Jews and fasting and weeping and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. So Esther's maids and her chamberlains came and told it to her. Then was the queen exceedingly grieved, and she sent raiment to clothe Mordecai and to take away his sackcloth from him. But he received it not. Then called Esther for Hattach, one of the king's chamberlains, whom he had appointed to attend upon her, and gave him a commandment to Mordecai to know what it was and why it was. So Hattach went forward to Mordecai into the street of the city which was before the king's gate. And Mordecai told him of all that have happened unto him, and of the sum of the money that Haman had promised to pay the king's treasuries for the Jews to destroy them. Also, he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, and show it to Esther, and to declare it unto her, and to charge her that she should go unto the king and make supplication unto him, and to make request before him for her people. So you have
What's supplication?
Basically a begging, pleading, right? It's a earnest asking, it's an earnest entreating. It's basically like if your kid wants you to give them some money for some food at McDonald's or something like that, they begging you. That's what that is in essence. Okay, so supplication is earnest asking or begging. Okay, but yeah, so basically right now you have Mordecai. He's like, bro, we need help. And then Esther hears that he's outside the king's gate with sackcloth and ashes, which you cannot do. So to protect him, she sends Hattach, who's one of the king's chamberlains that was attending to her. She said, go to him and take these clothes to him and get him away from there. And he didn't receive it. And he told him to tell Esther. He said, bro, tell her what happened. And then he said, tell her to go beg the king to cancel this decree because we finna die. Okay. Now, Hattach came and told Esther the words of Mordecai, and again Esther spoke to Hattach and gave him the commandment unto Mordecai. All the king's servants, all the king's servants, and the people of the king's provinces do know that whatsoever, whether man or woman, shall come unto the king into the intercourt, who is not called, there is one law of his to put him to death, except such to whom the king shall hold out his golden scepter that he may live. But I have not been called to come into the king in these 30 days. So she's like, bro, I can't. If I go into the king without being called, they're going to kill me. I don't care. They don't care if I'm the queen. They're going to kill me. The only person that could talk to him is somebody that he raises his golden scepter, his staff to. That's somebody he basically blesses and gives them the permission to do whatever, to ask whatever, right? And so they told Mordecai Esther's words. And then Mordecai told them to tell Esther, think not with thyself that thou shalt escape in the king's house more than all the Jews. For if you altogether hold your peace at this time, then shall their enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from another place. But thou and thy father's house will be destroyed. And who knoweth whether thou art to come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Then Esther bade them return to Mordecai this answer: go gather all the Jews. Here comes her. Are you ready? Go gather all the Jews that are present in Shushan and fast for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go it unto the king. Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Good to see y'all, man.
Yeah,
good to see y'all. Armani gave Isaiah permission to whoop y'all if y'all didn't come. So But what was I saying? Oh yes, I also my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go it unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther commanded him. Okay, I know. Okay, so yeah, give them one. Now before we continue, I'm gonna explain to them as well.
What's your name again?
Yes, remind me of your names. Jerry? Jeremiah? That's a good name, bro.
Yours?
Nevaeh. Jeremiah Nevaeh. Okay. Bro, sit down. Okay, so we're having a conversation about fasting. Okay, do y'all know what fasting is? What's fasting?
When you give yourself to God and you cut off the social media, you cut off anything that's worldly, and just give your time to God.
Understanding. That's how you abstain from all the exterior things, right? Now, do you know what fasting is in the Bible?
Like what do you mean?
Because like you said, right, fasting is abstaining from social media, TV, all of this stuff to focus purely on God, right? Now, in the Bible, obviously, they didn't have social media. Imagine they did. That would be crazy. Jesus would have been even bigger, right? But yeah, so they didn't have all of these things that we have today. So how would somebody fast in the Bible?
From food.
Yes, from food. Now, Why do you think they would fast on food? Because it's like, okay, if I don't eat, I don't eat. But what is that doing?
Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. He didn't have food.
Right. And what happened when he fasted? What did he do?
Well, he got tested by the devil.
Come on. You need to be up here. You need to be, nah, I'm playing. But yeah, so in the Bible, they would fast, and what they would do is they would refrain from food. And the point of it is to humble themselves and to say, I don't need anything but God. Because even when Jesus fasted in the garden and was tempted by the devil, the first thing the devil said was, if you truly God, then turn these stones to bread so that you can eat. You hungry, ain't you? You don't fast for 40 days. I know you're hungry. Turn these stones to bread so that you can eat. And Jesus says that man cannot live by bread alone, but by the words that proceeded out of the mouth of God. So fasting is basically saying, I still got to eat, but my flesh ain't going to eat. My spirit, man, will eat. Because when God created man in the Garden of Eden, man was asleep and God breathed his breath into his nostrils. And it says that man became a living soul. It didn't say man became flesh. Flesh came after we disobeyed God. So before that happened, the way we were eating was purely by God. So that's what we got to do today if we want to get closer to God, if we want to get his guidance, his protection, if we want a miracle to happen in our lives, we fast and we pray. And it works. I've had different stories in my life where it's worked. I'm pretty sure you have. I'm pretty sure you guys have as well. When you're fasting and praying, God moves mightily in our lives. Okay. So that's what we're talking about today, but specifically in Matthew chapter 6, because this is part of the Sermon on the Mount. And this is where Jesus is teaching the multitudes that are there listening to him. He's teaching them what to do about fasting, how to fast, what not to do when you do fast, and all things therein. Okay. I'm going to let y'all get to Matthew 6. Let me see. You got it? We'll book you in. Oh, yeah, you already there. One more page. There you go. Chapter 6, verses 16 through 18. Okay. So to kind of reiterate. Oh, there we go. To kind of reiterate, verse 16 on your paper as well, it says, moreover, when you fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces that they may appear unto man to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. Okay. So first things first, do you guys know what countenance is or what a countenance is? No. So basically countenance is a person's facial expression. Okay. So what he is saying is when you fast, don't be like the hypocrites, because when they would fast, they would go out in public to other people and look sad, look hungry, look weary because they're not eating. And they're only doing that so they can have people see them and say, oh, they fasting. That's a good person. Don't do that. Don't do that, because that's hypocritical. And that's not you doing it for God. That's you doing it for affirmation of man. And God sees that. So since God sees that, he's not going to give you whatever you're fasting for, because you're not even fasting for me. You're not even paying attention to me. You're paying attention to other people's opinions about you. Okay. So he's saying, do not do that. He's saying advertised fasting is another example of an external and degenerate piety or religiousness. All forms of self-denial are to be secret without parade. So just like with the prayer lesson that we did last week, which I'll give you out a paper for that too. This is not him saying corporate fasting is wrong. This is not him saying fasting with other people is wrong. What he is saying is don't fast and tell everybody, look, I'm a faster. Don't do that. That is not right. Okay. But what he is saying is when you do fast, it's purely for you and the Father. It's not for Isaiah to see you and say, oh, she's good. That's what I'm talking about. She's a woman of God. It's not for Isaiah to see you and say, oh, that's a woman. That's a man of God. That's not what it's for. It's for whatever you need. Let's say you need God's guidance. I'm going to fast for this day or these 3 days or however long you fast. And I'm going to pray and ask for God to move in my life. Let's say you got a sickness in your body. God, I need you to move in my life. And I'm going to fast and pray. That's what it's for. And then afterwards, if you do it correctly, he'll reward you. Of course, as long as it's according to his will, though. You can't fast for a BMW or a Rolls Royce. It ain't going to happen that way. Okay. Now, verse 17 through 18, it says, but you, when you fast, but thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret will reward you openly. Okay. Now, when it says anoint thy head and wash thy face, it's not in essence saying to put oil on your head and wash your face. If you do that, perfect, do it. If you don't, that don't mean you're not fasting. But what he is saying is have yourself put together. Don't go out to work while you're fasting. Don't go out to work looking like you're hungry, because that's you seeking attention for whatever you're doing. The attention is supposed to only be between you and God. So when you're fasting, don't try to get other people to see that you fasting. Don't do all that. You don't need to, because God sees everything. And then once you're done fasting, whatever you're fasting for, you're going to get it openly. So let's say I have a sickness and I fasted and prayed for it. You guys come back and see me. I'm healthy. I'm not even moving the same way I was when I was sick, because I've been healed, because I fasted and prayed for it. You get what I'm saying? So whatever you're fasting for, he'll reward you with it openly, as opposed to you not getting it because you're not doing it correctly. Okay? So when we fast, God sees what we're doing from what we show and our intent behind it. We fast. When we fast and don't sound the trumpet, or we make sure that people don't see that we are fasting, God sees that, and whatever you're fasting for, he'll reward that to you openly for all to see. That way you may be a testimony of God's great power. Throughout the Bible, there's a plethora of different stories of people fasting and praying for God to move in a certain area of their life. It could be for a miracle to take place. It could be for deliverance for someone else. It could be because you feel far from him and want to hear his voice, etc., etc. But whatever the reason, make it a necessity that you have a prayer life and a fasting life. It is a necessity, because just like in this lesson and the last lesson, Jesus, when he talked about prayer, he said, but when you pray, he didn't say if you pray. He said when you pray, right? So this is him assuming that you're going to pray. He says when you fast, not if you fast. Jesus is assuming that as a follower of me, you're going to fast. So we got to make sure that we incorporate prayer and fasting in our lives, because just like a light needs a generator, just like your phone needs a charger, how are you going to use your phone if you ain't charging it? You can't. You got to take it to a source of power. Same thing. We got to go to our source of power, but you can't do that without prayer and fasting. Okay? So we must make it a necessity, just as a house needs a generator, because God is our generator. So now what we're doing right now is we're going through a couple different stories of different people fasting in the Bible. Okay? So you have Ezra in chapter 8, and you have Esther in chapter 4. Okay? Now y'all could just go to Esther. I'm gonna kind of explain Ezra because we already finished it. But we're gonna go to Esther because we're just about to get into the meat of Esther right now.
Hey, when I get married, I have another daughter. I'm gonna name her Esther. That's tough.
That's an old name. That's an old name.
I don't care.
I've never met somebody young with the name Esther.
They grow old, right?
Nah. You know, remember Good Times?
Mm-hmm.
Her name was Esther Rose. Her name was Esther, the mom. Have you ever seen her young?
Old.
Have you ever seen her young?
Jemima, don't
Exactly what I'm trying to tell you, bro. I don't believe that. I think she came out the womb old. Yep, you got it.
Yeah, you crazy.
Go the other way. Go this way. Yep. Yeah. It's gonna be right before Job. Yeah, the little gold outline.
I'm the old school thing.
There you go. We're gonna go to chapter 4. Right over there. Okay. So Ezra, to give you guys kind of an example of what happened. So basically, y'all know the story of Moses. Okay. So Moses was an Israelite or a Jew, born at a time where the Pharaoh made a decree to kill all the firstborn sons, all the sons of the Jews, because he got a prophecy basically that God's going to use one of them and take everybody out. So he's trying to kill everybody before that happened. But then Moses' mother, when he was born, she put him in a basket, put him on the river, right? And so he was basically raised with Pharaoh. But
And that's in Ezra?
No.
Oh.
So I'm kind of getting to it. So basically what Moses did was the Israelites were basically enslaved. They're being treated wrong. And God used Moses to lead these people out of Israel. And so that's when he parts the Red Sea. All of that stuff happens in the Exodus. This is what it's called, the Exodus. That's when he took all the Israelites out of slavery. Okay. Now, as he took them out of slavery, the Israelites are now becoming disobedient, selfish. They like, bro, we hungry. The Bible says that God fed them with heavenly manna, right? So it's a lot of things that's happening, but he took them out and took them to a place, right? And when he took them to a place, they became even more disobedient. They started to fall into idolatry. They started to praise false gods. They started to become fully disobedient to God. And so God punished them and exiled them out of where they were into Babylon, a different place. And he said, you're going to stay here for 70 years. Now, after the 70 years is when we get to Ezra. And so there's two people, Ezra and Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel led a group of people, the first group of people, he led them over to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple of God. Okay. So now the promise is done. They're going to the promised land. So Zerubbabel leads them to Jerusalem, rebuilds the temple of God. And then Ezra leads the second group of people to fix their spiritual condition. But everybody didn't leave Babylon. All the Israelites left Egypt when Moses took them out, but only a remnant, only a portion of them left Babylon. So he had to fix their spiritual condition because everybody was already disobedient and far away.
So Babylon is where the sinners were.
Yes. So Babylon was where they were exiled to. And then God used Ezra to take them all the way back to Jerusalem. Okay. Now, on the way to Jerusalem, they get to a point to where they don't know if they'll make it there safely. Basically, they want a safe passage. And so instead of him going to the king for help, for soldiers and stuff like that, he says, let's fast, because I've already told these people that our God is going to help us. So I can't go against my confidence in God. I can't go against a lesson my God. Let us fast and afflict ourselves and humble ourselves so that we may be heard and we may get a safe passage. And that's what he did in essence. Okay. So basically Ezra was showing us a fast of, if you need help, if you need guidance, if you need protection, fast and pray to God so that he can give you that. Okay.
So, and that's in the book of Ezra where they talked about.
Yes.
The other day I tried to read Ezra, but I didn't understand it.
Yeah, it's lengthy and it's a lot of names and confusing names.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to.
Come on, yeah. I did the same thing when I was reading Exodus or Numbers, I think, maybe even Leviticus. It was the book where they was talking about building tabernacles, and I was like, man, I don't know none of this. So I started to read the book of Matthew, and so now I'm reading everything. But now we're in Esther, okay? So we got 8 minutes, we good. So Esther, quickly, before I elaborate on what we was just saying. And Esther, this is right after, or basically during, but right before Ezra leads everybody, Esther's in, she's become a queen in Persia. She's a Jew that becomes a queen. And so her cousin Mordecai came to the king's council, right, with all the other princes and stuff like that. And basically the rule there is, when the king comes, you have to kneel, you have to bow, you have to give him honor, right? Basically give him reverence, give him respect. But Mordecai is a believer in God. He says, I don't bow to no God other than my God. I don't bow to no king other than my king. And so the king Ahasuerus basically appoints this man named Haman as the name above everybody else, all the other princes and all the provinces, all the states. And when Haman sees this, he gets angry. He's like, bro, you just disrespected the king in front of all these people. And so he conspires with the king to get a decree to put out to all the lands to kill all the Jews. All the Jews that's in your place, get rid of them and destroy them because they're disrespectful, all because of what Mordecai did. So Mordecai hears this. He sits in sackcloth and ashes, and he's sitting in front of the king's gate to get help. And then his cousin Esther, the queen, she basically tells him not to do that. And he tries to tell her, like, bro, we need help. This is what's going on. And she says, I can't go to the king yet because he hasn't called me. And if I go over there, they're going to kill me. And so she says, I need you to go to everybody and fast. Fast for 3 days. Don't eat, don't drink. We're going to fast for 3 days. And me and my handmaid is going to do the same thing. And that's what they did. Okay. So where did I get to? Let me see. Let me make sure. Okay, yes. So this is what happened. Okay, so that's basically what happened with Esther. Now, in this story, what we see is the Jews have what's the word? Ransom, if that makes sense. They have a ransom basically. So this guy, Haman, put out a decree and said, you guys are going to get this amount of money if you kill all the Jews. So they got a price on their head. We about to get killed by all these people because we don't want to serve their king because we have our king, right? And so they they get together and they fast together for 3 whole days. All the Jews fasted for 3 days, right? Now, the reason for them fasting, obviously, is because I can't do nothing in this situation. I am in a place where I can't protect myself. I can't fight against these people because these dudes are trained soldiers. We just living here. So they're going to kill all of us if we try to fight back, right? So they needed to fast. And so what they did was they fasted, right? Now here's the power of fasting. When you truly fast and deny yourself of that which it really needs, which is food, if you deny that so that you can get closer to God, so that you can get an answer from God, so that you can get a miracle from God, God hears that and he will move in a mighty way, in a mighty way. And so as we see in this, we see what happened and why they started fasting. And the next chapter, you get what happened after they fasted. So after they fasted and prayed to God, Esther goes to the king. Okay. So she goes to the king and the king sees her. And normally she'll get killed. You'll get killed because I didn't call you to come into here. But the king saw her and raised his gold scepter, raised his gold staff, and basically gave her permission to speak. And what she told him was, let's have dinner, basically, so I can tell you what's going on. And so he was like, I don't know. Then they end up having dinner. And she tells him what's going on. And then he looks at Haman, because when Haman told him, he didn't tell him why he wanted it. He was trying to conspire so he could kill everybody because he was mad. That's all he was doing. And so when the king Ahasuerus saw this, he had Haman killed with the same instrument that he was going to use to kill Mordecai. So Haman built this staff, this big old wooden structure type of thing, and he would hang people on it. So you had a rope coming down from it, and he will hang you on it. I forgot what it's called. Huh? No. He was the king's commander in a sense. He was like the king's right-hand man. So the king appointed him as that, and then Haman did that because he was an evil guy. He wanted to kill all the Jews. He was a racist, basically, right? And so Haman tried to use... Whoa, nah, I ain't finna say that. But yeah, so Haman built this structure so that he can kill these people on it. And instead of him doing that, because everybody fasted and prayed, God moves. And so now, not Mordecai, Haman was killed by that same instrument he used to kill the Jews. And the Jews were all freed.
That's so crazy.
Okay? So what we see in these two stories is, first things first, when you get to a point in your life where the situation is out of your hands, sicknesses, financial hardship, marital problems, anything, something with your kids, when you get to a place where you can't fix nothing, you can't even go to a human being to fix it, even if you can go to a human being. When you sit down and say, you know what, I'm going to fast and pray, it's going to work. And I'm going to tell you why. We had a situation in our life where my mother died in front of us. Okay. That was crazy to say. My mother died. Okay. So we was living in Compton, California on Magnolia Street, man. We had a lot of fun times there. Okay. I even saw a guy get shot in the leg. It was so funny when I was younger. It's just crazy to say that. But
that was the exact answer I was
it was like after he got shot, he was arguing with his mama. And she was like, don't touch me, you got blood. He was like, Mom, I'm good. It was so funny. But basically, it was this one day, we outside playing, having fun. We playing football with our friends, right? And then my dad comes outside. He's like, yo, y'all get in the house, let's go. And y'all come to the house. We're like, all right, we go in the house, go upstairs, go in the house. It's pitch black in the house. It's like no light, nothing. I'm like, Pops, what are we doing? Right? And he says, I need y'all to sit by the couch. We need to pray. We're like, what's going on? Why do we need to pray? He said, your mom's not breathing right now. We're like, what? Mom was on the couch, cold, lifeless,
body cold,
not alive. She's dead in front of us. My mom is dead. So we get down, we listen to that. We're like, okay, let's start praying. So we praying, we weep, and we're not thinking about nothing else but God, we need you because I can't heal my mama. I can't bring her back. And so we praying, we crying, we weeping. I remember opening my eyes and I see my mother's body do this. See her body come off the couch. I'm like, what the heck is going on? This ain't right. Why is this human being laying here getting up off the couch lifeless? So she gets off the couch as we praying. And then we finish praying and she wakes up and she looks at us like, what are y'all doing? We're like, what you mean what we doing? You was just dead. Right? And so she told her testimony a couple months after that. She praised Dan. She told her testimony how she died. And she said she was taken to a place that felt like hell. And she said it was hell. And she said, hell is not what you think. And she was basically in a holding place, but she was in a place where she said it was cold, dark, gloomy, and you by yourself and you're in the cell and you are tormented of all your mistakes, all the things that you didn't ask for repentance for, everything that you did wrong. You're mentally tormented day in and day out. And she told us this. And what I got from that was two things. Number one, we cannot play with this thing that we have life. We cannot play with it. And number two, that's the power of praying. And then when you apply fasting to that, people can be healed. Baby sicknesses can be gone. A lot of things can happen when you fast, because when you're fasting, that's you saying, God, nothing in this world matters to me. Not even the food that my body needs. I need you in my life. Because as we see in the beginning of Matthew chapter 5, when he starts the Sermon on the Mount, he starts it off by saying, blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will inherit the kingdom of heaven. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. To be poor in spirit means to be humble enough to know that you need God in every aspect of your life. And that's how he starts the Sermon on the Mount off with. To be poor in spirit means that you're willing to even fast. Just as these people were. Imagine if they just said, let's battle up and let's go to war with these people. They would have all got killed. And we wouldn't have this story of fasting. Imagine if Ezra just went to another king to get more soldiers. We would not have this story of fasting. We wouldn't see the power of fasting. And there's many different stories in the Bible that's about fasting. Even Jesus fasted. And when Jesus fasted, he got the understanding that he needed. Because he said, Father, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me. Because he's starting to realize I am about to take on the full burden of sin. He said, Father, let this cup pass from me, but let your will be done. And in that he was strengthened in his purpose to go and die for the world. Okay. Now we are running over. But basically, here's the point of this. Jesus is teaching us, number one, you have to have a fasting and prayer life. You have to have that incorporated into your life, because you can't go through this thing called life without it. You have to be, number one, willing to seek God, and you have to make it a necessity for you to seek God. And when you do that, you are empowered, you are strengthened, because there's another story where this man needed help for his son because his son had a dumb spirit. He was possessed, and he went to the disciples to get healed, but the disciples couldn't do nothing. And so the guy goes and gets Jesus. He's like, I went to your disciples. They didn't do nothing. And Jesus said, what is wrong with y'all, basically? He's like, did I not say that you guys have the same power that I have? And they said, we tried and we couldn't do nothing. He says, yes, but you don't have this power because this power is only unlocked by prayer and fasting. There's powers that we can use, not like mythical powers, but I'm talking about powers like we can heal the sick. We can allow miracles to happen if we apply fasting and prayer into our life.
Isn't that like your fruit?
Huh?
Your fruits?
What do you mean?
Everyone has like a gift.
Yeah, you just have to use it. That's exactly. But you can't tap into your anointing if you're not even seeking him. Okay? So prayer and fasting is something that we got to apply to our life every day. Every day. You got to pray every day. Not saying that if you don't pray every day, you're a sinner, but incorporate that into your life, because that's a necessity. Because you're going to have different troubles and trials in this life. And the only way to get fixed, the only way to get what you need is to go to him. And the way you go to him is through prayer and fasting.